Global issues. Local issues. Our issues. Being shared on MetroEast Outlook. Presented by the Gresham Outlook and MetroEast Community Media.
Sustainability has become a buzzword in the past few years. Everyone is talking about green industry, the environment, and reducing the carbon gases that contribute to global warming. East County is no exception. The city of Gresham and other local cities have made sustainability a priority, not only for reasons of livability, but also for economic development. Local communities are seeking to attract the businesses that will thrive in a coming world where alternative energy, recycling, and conservation are not just laudable goals, but an economic necessity. One green company, XsunX, a solar energy component company, will soon make its manufacturing facility in the old Merrick's building in Wood Village. There is also a proposal by Hiroshi Morihara to bring a demonstration project to East County that would test the viability of woody mass as a source for biofuels. On this episode of MetroEast Outlook, we will learn about these green industries and discuss what they will bring to the local economy and to residents' quality of life. What is driving the current push for sustainable development in East County? And will this area become a hub for green industries? Those are some of the questions we will explore tonight on MetroEast Outlook.
Hi, and welcome to MetroEast Outlook. I'm Travis Stovall, your host for this conversation about green industry in East County. My co-host, Mark Garber from the Gresham Outlook. Our guests this program include Hiroshi Morihara, president of HM3 Ethanol Incorporated, who has worked for several years to bring a demonstration project to East County that would test the viability of woody mass as a source for biofuels. Another guest is Havid Mohtasham, Director Advisor for the Environmental Health and Safety Program of Mount Hood Community College, here to talk about the new Biodiesel Training Center that will open at Mount Hood this fall. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Sounds pretty exciting. Also joining us this evening is Tom Djokovic of XsunX, who is bringing a solar energy component plant to the great city of Wood Village. Very, very exciting. Tom, thank you for coming up this evening, and welcome everybody to the program for MetroEast Outlook. I also want to invite you, the viewers, to participate in the conversation, of course, by calling in questions and comments you have. The number for you will appear on your screen in just a moment. This evening we're talking about green industry, sustainability, its effects on East County. We want to start off the questions and start off the conversation by looking at what's driving this move towards sustainability. And is this move towards sustainability and looking at green industry, is it a fad? Is it a fad that we're starting off, we're going to see it fade in a couple of years? Or is this something that we see as a sea of change? Something that's beginning to move it's beginning to become pervasive throughout the United States, throughout the world. I know we're talking at very high levels in the political world today. Each of our presidential candidates are all talking from a pulpit about green, sustainable industry, $4 gas, the potential of $6 gas. Again, what do each of you think is driving this move towards sustainability, and is it something that's going to be here today, gone tomorrow?
Well, see, I see two issues here. The one is the fact that first you've got the increase in cost of energy. As it continues to rise, it's logical, I think, for the average individual to start thinking about, okay, where can I cut costs? I mean, in my own family, we went out and got a hybrid the other day, okay? Because we had to add another car and there was no alternative. We didn't bother looking at anything else than that because we're convinced the gas is going to continue to go up. On the other hand, you've got governments and you have security issues because access to energy is security. Without electricity, put it this way, if you look at the DOE's got some great statistics. They show energy consumption on a per capita basis for every single state, country, nation on the planet. The countries that consume more energy per capita, per individual, have stronger economies, better education. That's it. It drives the quality of life that we have. And they're looking at the costs associated with the rise in access to energy, the costs associated with even getting enough security and things like that. And so they're starting to go ahead and support the proliferation with mandates such as, minimum RECs for how much, like here in Oregon, 25% from renewables by 2015. Things like that are starting to really drive here in the U.S. They're already being driven in other areas of the world. And I think that what we're seeing is a fundamental change in how we produce, potentially even store and deliver and even consume power. And it's just a fundamental change, just like when we changed from burning cow dung to wood and from wood to coal. I'm sure there was groups of people at that time who thought, they weren't in the middle of a large sustainable change that was occurring. And when we moved from coal to electrical energy, now different forms of electrical production, I think that's what's underway right now. And we're looking at something that's going to occur probably on through at least the middle of this century, in my opinion.
You're coming from out of state, so you may have a slightly different perspective.
Well, we actually conducted a search and sought after and received 26 proposals, Oregon being one of them, for a home to locate, a state in which to locate, because we were focused and set on manufacturing in the United States. And so we needed to create a position for ourselves where we had a competitive edge against foreign manufacturers, primarily manufacturers out of Asia, because the labor rates are so low there. What really drew us to Oregon was a number of issues, and primarily to the East County area there was what you have here is very low electrical rates. And a trend that's starting to occur in our industry right now is some of the analysts, some of the market analysts are starting to not just look at what kind of renewable product you're designing and manufacturing, but also how green of a company are you? What kind of a footprint do you leave? And so when a company like, there's another silicon wafer manufacturer that was solicited Oregon for benefits, they chose to go to New Mexico. New Mexico gave them a $400 million benefits package to build there. And they're using coal-fired electricity to manufacture their product. And it takes a lot of electricity to manufacture thin-film solar or silicon wafer-based technologies. And so it really diminishes exactly how green. How long does their solar module have to operate before that footprint, that carbon footprint, is absorbed by the environment? And so we were able to get inexpensive power, plentiful power. About half the power comes from renewable sources, which is great for us. There's as it was mentioned here, these clusters. Well, previously there was clusters of semiconductor-type companies. So there's a lot of pre-existing fabs here. And another thing that drew us was the ability to recycle a building rather than building and consuming all kinds of new natural resources. And there's still a number of buildings available out here for us to be able to access. And then on top of that, the whole Oregon environment here, we thought, we have close proximity to the airport, shipping, things like that. For us, it just made a lot of business sense to come here. And then they got a great benefits package in this state too. It equals in many areas a lot of the other benefit packages we were presented by other states. So for us, we were pleased, and it became a very logical and easy decision to set up house here.
Mr. Djokovic, you actually touched on something that a lot of people ask the question: what type of footprint does green technology and building green technology leave on the environment? You mentioned that going to a place like New Mexico and using coal fire to develop these wafers actually extends the amount of time it takes for the environment to recuperate. Right. What types of time frames are we talking about? For a product that you're producing, and then also as we look at biodiesel and ethanol, what are we talking in terms of the energy that goes in it compared to the energy that comes out of it?
Well, on the solar side, I don't have the specific statistics. I know that they're out there. We're actually doing a study on our own right now. But relatively speaking, for just our first facility, which is a 25 megawatt production facility, which means it'll produce enough solar panels on an annualized basis that if you laid them all out side by side at any given moment under the sunlight, they produce about 25 megawatts of power. The realities behind that is we consume about 3 megawatts of power producing those modules. So when you think about that, if half of that comes from a renewable source that's not spewing carbon emissions into the sky, it gives us literally half the life cycle, I guess you might say, before that footprint is erased, as opposed to if we were to set up shop in California. Unfortunately, I just don't have the exact time frame. I could I could follow that up in an email once we're finished with our study. We had to kind of wait till we made our final decision and then do the studies associated with that.
Just for our viewers at home, what when you say 25 megawatts, what's the equivalent of what that powers?
Well, the average home is going to consume somewhere 2.5 to 3.5 kilowatts. So if you divide, let's say, 2.5 kilowatts into 25 megawatts, you're looking at about roughly somewhere near about 25,000 homes.
Is that an annual figure? Annually?
That would support the power requirements for that many homes.
For a year?
Annually. Well, just not annually. That it would just support it, and then the following year you make another 25 megawatts, and you support another, and then following, and so on and so forth.
Gotcha.
So somewhere in the neighborhood, it could be as few as 15,000, may go as high as 25,000. Depends on power consumption.
Yes.
And I want to make a correction. It's not 25,000 homes. It's 1,000 homes. Between 750 to 1,000 homes. I just misspoke.
Okay. So for every 25 megawatts, 750 to 1,000 homes.
Depending on how much power consumption, anywhere from 3.5 to 2.5 kilowatts of power, the average house, right?
So that would obviously leave lots of room for future growth in your industry.
Oh, there's a tremendous amount of growth. There's just on the solar side, the consumption. We use about 15 terawatts globally on a global basis right now. The Department of Energy predicts that by 2025, in approximately 20 years, that global consumption is going to double. And that's a scary concept. Without, when's the last time you saw a power plant being built, or a nuclear power plant, or a dam being dammed? I mean, these kinds of projects are very difficult to get going in the United States. They're trying to put a small gas-fired turbine about 10, 15 miles from where I live. Matter of fact, in the backyard of our chief operations officer in his community, and there's a massive uproar in the community that they don't want, not in my neighborhood. We don't want this building. We don't want this noise. We don't want this potential hazard or whatever it is. And so when you see that and you think, okay, but we're plugging more toys into the wall sockets every day. We're buying more gadgets. We're consuming more power, putting more TVs in rooms, and then the lifestyle and the living standard of developing worlds is growing simultaneously. You think, okay, the Department of Energy is probably not too far off the base here. Where are we going to come up with all this power? So it's going to take a number of initiatives like this that produce power from sustainable sources, because we can't keep drilling and burning carbon fuel. It's not sustainable.
Maybe we could drill down a little deeper into exactly descriptions of the projects you're working on, so that our viewers maybe have a better understanding exactly, Mr. Djokovic, with your project, and what is the technology, how does it work, what materials do you need to construct it, what does it look like?
Well, we take a piece of glass that's about 3 feet by approximately about 5.5 feet long. And it's very similar to the glass that would be on a window in your home, very similar. It's annealed glass, and we put it in a machine, and about 3 hours later comes out the other side of our assembly line, and it's an assembled solar module. And what we've done in that period of time is we use industrial gases that we turn into what's called plasma. This is like out of Star Trek, where the gases are mixed and all the atoms are disassociated, and then using targets and different frequencies, we attract those atoms down onto the surface of the glass, and we create various different layers. And in doing that, we build various different layers of the solar cell, which is very similar to a battery. There's a positive and negative side to it. And it allows the sun photons to be absorbed, knocks electrons loose, and that's essentially what builds current and electrical power. And we go ahead and insulate it so it's weatherproof. We put an aluminum frame on it. Rate it, we do what's called a internal factory test to it to see how much power it produces. Because an interesting thing a lot of people don't realize, each module is going to produce slightly different amounts of power based on anomalies in the environment that we can't control. So one might produce 120 watts of power, one might produce 130 watts of power. So they're literally rated at the end of each assembly line and then batched. And when we sell them, we sell it by the watt. just like you buy a gallon of gasoline or a BTU of natural gas for your home. So it's not so much like going and buying a TV or a CD where you pay so much for a given item. You actually pay for the quantity or the potential that you receive with our particular product. And we've designed it primarily for commercial and solar farm type applications. We think that's where the market is really going, is in the direction of large solar farms where you're going to see tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of solar panels. And the underlying technology, I'll be brief here, this thin film technology, it's called amorphous silicon. And it uses, if you compared it to conventional silicon wafer type technologies, which is what 90% of the market is right now, it would be comparing like a sheet of paper to a ream of paper in terms of how much material we use. So because of that, our process is much less expensive, which allows us to then, and much more highly automated, which allows us to produce modules, solar modules, at a per watt cost significantly less than the conventional silicon wafer. So it's a new industry. The technology's been around for 30 years, but this big new drive in thin films is rather new, just a couple of years old, and it's kind of a rebirth of thin films. And because of the demand in solar and the fact that thin films can produce power so much inexpensively than other technologies, there's a lot of growth in there, and that's why we're there.
For us here in the Pacific Northwest, the Willamette Valley in particular, some people might be wondering, well, will it work on cloudy days when we have rain from October to June, and or do we have to build all these farms in eastern Oregon?
Well, the beauty of amorphous silicon is that probably every viewer watching this program has some kind of device that employs the use of amorphous silicon. It could be their watch, it could be their calculator on their desk that works under just the office light. And that's the beauty of amorphous silicon. It takes much less incident light or amount of sunlight energy to start knocking the electrons loose in the absorber. So while other technologies such as silicon wafer are still waiting for enough solar power to hit them to actually turn on and start producing electricity, the amorphous silicon is already beginning to work. We actually had a study done, a comparative analysis of our design of amorphous silicon in principle, and our design specifically, compared a 1 megawatt installation of the amorphous silicon with several other technologies on the market here in Portland, Oregon. And the amorphous silicon consistently produced more power on an annualized basis. So it does produce less power than if it was in Phoenix, Arizona, but it's a great, it works great in these cloudy environments. And if we get on that side of the Cascades, it works fabulous.
So, as we look at this type of technology, have we figured out a way to store any of that power once it's produced, or once we produce it and we may not use it all up here in the state of Oregon, are we able to distribute that to other places?
Well, that adds to the cost. Mm-hmm. Storage is, you go buy a pack of batteries and you're going to pay a lot of money. The hybrid we just purchased, as I mentioned, fortunately came with an 8-year warranty on the battery, but if and when I have to replace it, it's not going to be cheap. Storage is a major issue. Currently, although it's viable, it's not really something that the average person is going to wind up using. Solar right now, I think its main contribution to our growing power needs is going to be really, I think, in the form of applications on homes that offset power requirements during the day, and large solar fields that literally go in as a sustainable power production site, friendly to the environment, doesn't have ongoing consumables, and replaces the need to put in a gas-fired turbine or a coal-fired turbine or a nuclear plant or a dam, and then literally produce that power and send it off for immediate use. By the way, coincidentally, the peak power demand and usage for electricity is the middle of the day. I always thought it was nighttime, but it's actually the middle of the day. Interestingly enough, for our technology, solar, that's when we're producing the most amount of power. So the two work very well hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Just before the break, we were talking about the technologies that exist and the technologies we're looking at. And Mr. Djokovic gave us a great review of the solar technology that his company is working with. And I'm really just stuck on the whole concept of atoms being disassociated. Again, I don't quite understand that technology, but I'm sure he does, and I'm thankful for that.
Maybe after we hear the reader's question, we can talk about what types of jobs would be created and what the pay ranges might be for these types of industries.
You know, real quick, something that's just mentioned right now, that growth, same thing in solar. I think in all the renewables right now, we're seeing that. On the solar side, they're predicting on the thin film over a 30% compounded annual growth rate. If we all earned that in our bank accounts and we started putting money away when we were born, by the time we were 5 years old, we'd be retiring. I mean, that's the kind of growth we're talking about here, is just phenomenal. And that's why it's going to take there's a lot of training. We're actually working with Mount Hood. They've offered to develop a program to help assist and train our future employees, because we're looking to grow in Oregon ourselves. So Mount Hood, I think, is going to be a great resource for us and hopefully other solar companies that come in the community.
Actually, we got a viewer question right along those lines. Allie, who works in Gresham, sent us a question that asked that specific question. How does this assist East County in regards to job growth? And will it actually expand our ability to bring more green-focused industries to East County specifically? So we can go ahead and answer that question. Is it bringing jobs? And I think we've already touched on that a little bit. We can expand. It brought XsunX. and will this begin to bring other organizations that have a green focus to East County?
I think it will. I think it will. I mean, our plant fully staffed is about 160 employees. We're planning on then building a second plant. That one's going to be well over 300 employees. I think that there's a lot of benefits to being on the east side, because we looked over on, I guess it's the west side, and in addition to the rents being higher, you have a much more competitive environment, and you've got a lot of other issues to deal with, such as traffic and the high cost of living for your employees. We didn't have the same degree of receptive offers from both the city officials and or the community colleges for training. So we found this to be a very, very friendly, very open arm type of environment for us, with great economics for us as well.
2 minutes to the end of the show. We want to make sure we get some final comments from
for XsunX, really, and I want to get your relative's telephone number, because we might need more money. Okay, but for us, as a growing company and establishing a facility there, really what we were looking for is a lot of what they offered around here, and I think if they can continue to offer that, you're probably going to see more companies coming there, and that is starting with the basics. The enterprise zone, tax abatement. The cities like to tax every single paper clip, every single file cabinet, every single machine in your facility. When they abate those taxes for 3 to 5 years, it helps you get going, and that's something that all businesses need, assuming you've got the money to get going. The next thing is the BETCs, which are a business energy tax credit the state offers. Great incentive here in the state of Oregon. I think it's going to attract a lot more businesses. Essentially, they give you up to $10 million in marketable tax credits for qualified type of expenditures that save energy. And then lastly, the Department of Energy here in Oregon is very progressive, and they're offering low-interest loans if you qualify to companies such as XsunX and other green companies moving into the area, which allows you, you don't have to go and sell capital. You don't have to go borrow money at high rates from Wall Street, and it integrates you deeper into the business communities here in Oregon. And for us, and there's a whole plethora of other packages the state offers, but overall, you guys do have a very competitive environment here, and as long as you keep that up, and from what I've heard, you are committed to that, I think you're going to attract a lot of businesses.
Excellent. We can't thank each of you enough for coming on the show this evening. We want to thank our guests for tuning in. Of course, we thank the folks for calling in, Allie and Barrett. If you have comments about this program, please mail or email them to us. We'll read them on next month's program. We encourage everyone's participation. We hope you will tune in again next month for a new episode of MetroEast Outlook. The program is live the first Wednesday of the month, so the viewers can call in and make comments and ask questions of our panel of experts. We want to thank you for watching MetroEast Outlook, a co-production of MetroEast Community Media and The Outlook. We'll see you next month. you.